Hello and welcome to Zerbinator's Horror Nights. This is the show that puts the air in scare, the right in fright, and the air in terror. I'm your host, Zerb, and with me is one of my oldest buds, Mike G. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Kevin, how are you tonight?
I'm really good, and I'm kind of nervous because tonight we discuss William Peter Blatty's 1973 classic, Exorcist.
Great movie.
We are going to spoil the heck out of this movie, so if you wish, watch the movie first and then come on back. And if you don't care, stay right there.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
It would be a little unkind to present this without just a word of friendly warning.
Children of the night, what music they make.
It deals with the two great mysteries of creation.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Life and death.
Your mother should hear with his cat.
I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain,
Would you like to leave a message?
now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Zerbinator's Horror Nights with your hosts, Zerbinator and Mike G.
Well, here we are, the first episode of Horror Nights. And this is a show about spooky horror films that you and I both have grown up with. And I thought, what better person on the planet to talk about this with but the gentleman who, number one, put me in his... You had a Gremlin, right?
No,
At one time?
Colt. Dodge Colt.
Oh, Dodge Colt. Put me in his Colt. And we drove to a house where you had a night of hell. And you told me all these horror stories. Who else but the gentleman took me over to his house to watch Poltergeist, The Shining, and a whole bunch of other movies for my first time. Who else on the planet except the gentleman who sat next to me, walked next to me, jumped out of graves next to me for over, God, what?
13 years. 13 years.
It was 13 years,
13 years.
of front yard haunted houses, indoor haunted houses, and everything else. My good buddy Mike, how you been, man?
I've been good, Kev. Glad to be here. Thanks for thinking of me when you came up with this idea. And when we talked about it on the phone, I was all in it, man. I was like, heck yeah, let's do this. This is, horror movies are my genre. I've probably seen just about every one ever made. So my library is pretty extensive of over 500 horror movies.
I think I have like 300 movies, and I need to catch up with you. But yeah, so good. We have plenty of episodes to do, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, tonight's particular movie, we decided on The Exorcist, and I wanted to ask you, do you believe in possession? Do you think that's a possibility?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I for years I was on the fence and everything, but I did a lot of research, and any given time since probably the early 1800s, not to offend anybody by religion or by stating religion, the Vatican keeps 15 exorcists in their services at all times.
Right. I've heard about that.
Yeah. So, there's a reason why they're there. If the Vatican thinks it's important to have them in their services, then there's probably a need for them at some point in time.
That's true, because you think about it, if you put it in like a layman type of term for anybody that doesn't have... especially those who aren't Catholic or don't know much about religion. How do I put this so it doesn't sound pretentious or stupid? I'll give it a shot. Plumbers are there to fix a sink. If the sink's never busted, you wouldn't have the plumbers,
correct?
Right?
Yeah. That's pretty much.
So obviously, the that's my metaphor.
Yeah.
If they weren't needed, then that job wouldn't be filled. But now I believe that it is a possibility. I've never witnessed it, of course, firsthand. I've witnessed people, I bet if I, really got to sit down and talk to them, they'd probably be mistaken for possessed. But I think it's a matter of, if you can allow yourself that much negativity and that much, if you let yourself get that cursed, I think it's a possibility. Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I'm not saying I 100% believe in it myself, I believe evil exists. It's just to what extent and how far does that evil go sometimes.
Right.
And can it be, can it be considered possession or just a bad, everybody knows, you get a bad apple every now and then and, a person that just does horrible things. And I think it's in a way, sometimes maybe it's even a little subjective, possession. Yeah. So maybe it's, just what people do and really don't believe. I haven't seen it myself either, and I'm one of those types I'd rather see it first.
And as we're talking, I'm thinking about things like the Timothy McVeighs and the guy who went nuts into the showing of The Dark Knight and shot into the theater.
Right.
And people like that. And, is that part of the same type of situation, or is that the way evil manifests itself nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, schizophrenia, that's one of the biggest, from research that I've done over the, just reading about different things over the years, was confused a lot with possession because, people heard voices in their heads and,
right.
And they were locked up in mental institutions because of it and treated with medications and other horrible means to try to cure, schizophrenia over, the last 50, 60 years. But who's really to say, It's like that old adage. The biggest joke the devil played was to make everybody believe he doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So, one just has to wonder.
Well, what was your first reaction to seeing this particular movie? And when did you see it?
The first time I saw this movie was probably 1980. So I would have probably been about 9 years old. And
got me beat.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was standing overnight at a friend's house, and they actually had it on picture laser disc back in the day.
Man.
And let me tell you, I don't think I slept for 3 days afterwards because it scared the living dookie out of me.
Yeah.
It was a great introduction to me. It wasn't the very first horror movie that I really saw, but it was one that left a very lasting impression on me. And it is one of my favorite movies. And every time I get a chance to watch it, I do. And how about you? What was your reaction?
Same. 1983. I saw it when I was sick in bed with the flu. I stayed home. Mom let me have a TV set in the room. Very young to watch a movie. You got me beat on age, man. Oof. But I just remember growing up Catholic, being that into my Catholicism at the time. I'm still Catholic now, but I'm not good at it as I was then. And a movie like that really got me. I think 3 weeks of trying to sleep, I stayed up for quite a few nights.
Yeah.
And it was pretty powerful at that time.
Yeah. I mean, for, the visual effects for its time were just incredible that it, for a kid, like I said, I was 9. And, to see the makeup and the way they put it together, it was truly believable,
Oh, yeah.
And it just, everything about it, it's definitely one of the classic horror movies, and that I rank there with, the Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff films, to be honest with you.
Right. And that's perfect choices, too, because, Frankenstein is my ultimate favorite and my very first horror movie I ever saw. So I'm with you 1,000,000,000%. And this movie here, to this day, I don't think many movies out there beat it in the sense that this is scary. Now people not of our generation, like I showed this movie to my daughter, Kate. She didn't get much out of it. She got something out of part 3, but she didn't get much out of part 1. And she's like, oh, that's so 19 whatever. And I'm like, well, it's my 19-something,
Right.
That's all I could say to
right.
it,
Right. It's like, with them remaking new, our classic horror movies, and they're remaking them with a modern twist. My youngest, he's a horror movie buff like I am. And he's like, man, that movie's so awesome. And then I was like, a couple days later, I'm like, here's the original. And he's like, yeah, the new one's better. I'm like, are you crazy?
How about some new spooky movie news?
Well, real quick, Mike, what we'll do is we'll go down some new movie news and some wonderful things that are going to be happening, since we're going to try to stay updated with things going on until we're dated.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, one of the movies, actually, it's not a movie. It's actually going to be an either 30-minute or a 1-hour program on the Stars channel on cable. It's called Ash versus the Evil Dead, the TV series.
Yes.
It stars Lucy Lawless, Jill Marie Jones, Bruce Campbell. It's directed by Sam Raimi.
Yay!
Ash,
my favorite.
Yeah, Ash vs. the Evil Dead is a follow-up to the classic horror film franchise The Evil Dead. It is set to premiere on the Stars this fall, like I said, and will feature Bruce Campbell in his recurring role as Ash, the stock boy, with his chainsaw hand, and he's a monster hunter. He's spent the last 30 years avoiding responsibility, maturity, and the terrors of the Evil Dead. A news release said that when a deadite plague threatens to destroy all of mankind, Ash is finally forced to face his demons, personal and literal. Destiny, it turns out, has no plans to release the unlikely hero from its evil grip. That's all the subplot that's out there right now. So
I pray that this takes off like Walking Dead, like House of Cards. I hope this thing gets right up on top because, that would be a great way to. And when this is over, hopefully they'll do like maybe another Evil Dead movie, and that'll be a perfect end cap to that whole series.
The only thing that I'm afraid that's going to get lost on all that is they remade the Evil Dead and it didn't have Bruce Campbell in it.
Yeah.
The original obviously starred Bruce, so did Part 2 and The Army of Darkness, which technically was the third of the Evil Dead series. So I don't know if this generation, not knowing that Bruce Campbell was in the first, like people our age would know, if something's not going to get lost because they're going to go, wait a minute, I saw The Evil Dead and it didn't have this guy in it. So, if they'll see the correlation.
What is this all about?
Right. That's my only fear with it.
Yeah, they should definitely push the fact that, and that's our job, Mike. Kids,
watch the originals.
Watch the original.
Watch the original. And I still think the original was better than the remake.
Yeah, I do too. The remake got a little too far into. It was all given to you.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, the first one was definitely fast food. It was definitely cheeseburgers and fries, but they were delicious. The second time, it was like going to Fuddruckers and you messed up your own burger.
Yeah.
It didn't come out this good, and the burger wasn't cooked all the way. It was way too raw.
Yeah, I mean there were some good parts in the new one, but still the classic is absolutely Bruce Campbell makes that movie. He really does, in my opinion.
And now, tonight's feature.
Well, tonight's feature, of course, is Exorcist from 1973. I was 3 years old when this came out, and let me guess, that makes you 1.
Me, 2. I was born in 71.
Oh, gosh, I keep thinking that you're 2 years younger than me, which I'm sure you're okay with. Keeps you younger.
Hey, I still get ID'd carded at the store.
Oh, good. That's important. That is important. Okay, so you were 1.
Yeah.
While you were Googling, she was going, "Rrr." This course was directed by William Friedkin, known for The French Connection in 1971, To Live and Let Die in L.A. in 1985, and he did a movie called Killer Joe in 2011. What's weird is I'm dying for him to write or direct another Exorcist, but we'll see. It was produced by William Peter Blatty, who wrote and directed the sequel, Part 3. Great director. In my opinion, the early Sam Raimi, because he could do all kinds of... And I think Sam Raimi got a lot from William Peter Blatty.
Yeah.
Screenplay was also by him as well. Based on the book, The Exorcist, written by William Peter Blatty. And it stars Ellen Burstyn, who just turned 82. I was just checking her out. Still looks good.
Wow.
Sorry. Max von Sydow. You have Lee J. Cobb, Kitty Wynn, Jack McGowan, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair. Linda Blair. Did I say Linda Blair? There's something happened in the 80s with Linda Blair that really made me happy. And it caused me to do things in drug fair, like borrow things while my mom was working in the pharmacy. Certain magazines that just let me get some reading material while Mom was working in the pharmacy. Linda Blair. Distributed by Warner Brothers. And it was released December 26th.
Easy there, cowboy.
Sorry about that.
He's having flashbacks,
It was released
folks.
December 26th in 1973. And I didn't know it was released in December 26th.
Yep, day after Christmas. That was one of the big uproars about it.
Oy vey. 122 minutes, and at a budget of $12 million. Takes a lot of money to make that bed flip around.
And now for a quick movie plot summary. Written by Zerb.
In a nice town in the District of Columbia, a young chick gets possessed. She does some freaky crap like throwing up on a priest, arguing with everyone, cursing a lot, and using a rosary improperly. This is when the mom loses it and turns to Father Marin along with Father Karras to come and save the soul of said chick. The demon in her soul fights a battle with two of the priests in a very cold room until the older priest dude has a heart attack, in which the chick loses it, giggling in the corner. That pisses off Father Karras and makes him choke the chick. The demon then possesses Father Karras, which makes Karras jump out the window and fall down more of the steps. He left his shoe behind, and it took Charlie Sheen to get sober.
Say that again. What was that?
What did you say?
Could you read that last sentence one more time?
I ad-libbed.
That was good ad-lib. That's what I want you to do.
My shoe.
Help me, Lord. Please help me, Lord.
All right, I'm going to start right here.
I'm halfway down, Lord.
The demon then possesses Father Karras, which makes Karras jump out the window and fall down the steps, lost his shoe. Then it took Charlie Sheen to get sober. The chick felt much better after that. The end. That was just wrong, Kev. That was just wrong, man.
It'll get worse each movie, I promise.
Great synopsis.
Oh, God. And that's really about the summary of the film. It's Father Marin who is just on a mission to definitely take care of evil spirit again, taunting another soul. That's the story.
And now for the films that had followed the original.
The films that followed were Exorcist II, The Heretic in 1977. In my opinion, it was a spit on the original film. That had Robert Mitchum, is that right?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Yeah, it was Robert Mitchum.
And in my opinion, I would love to hear yours after I'm finished, and mine's quick. All they did was take part one, cut it up, and put it in part two. Yeah. And that's it.
In a different story, or I think took place in New York this time, where they were in, Psycho Ward, or not Psycho Ward, but...
Treatment Center or something like that.
Yeah, special treatment center with hypnosis, yada, yada, yada. They ruined the flick. It was not a very good film.
Yeah, they sure did. And I'm really surprised she said yes to that, but I guess she needed the money.
Maybe. They were looking for the success that, number one. We talked about that earlier with, sequels.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Now, I definitely want to discuss this movie again. I don't know if you've seen it. The Exorcist 3, which is, I find just as important as part one. It picks up right where Father Dyer and Lieutenant Kinnaman are talking at the end of the film in part one. It picks up right after that. The relationship, 20 years later or 30 years later?
Something like that.
And it all happens all over again. But this one part two was directed and written by some other dude. Part three was directed and written by William Peter Blatty, and rightfully so. So if it's okay with you, one day I would like to discuss that movie.
Yeah, and for anybody that's interested, for those who might like to read the book versus watch the movie, The Exorcist 3 in book form is called Legion, excuse me. It was also written by William Peter Blatty, who wrote the first Exorcist film, which is why there's such cohesiveness from the first film to the third film.
Definitely. The Exorcist beginning in 2004, I like it. I own it. It's not as... the thing I did not like about that one is there's way too much CGI going on, to the point that it was like the birth of CGI. So it's almost like you're watching the opening to The Amazing Story by Steven Spielberg. It's kind of cheesy.
Right.
But in 2004, we had better technology than that, and they were on a budget, I guess. And then part 5, Dominion... This is the prequel to The Exorcist. Both films were kind of prequels, but Dominion, I think that I don't understand why that movie was made. It had the guy from Powder in it. It had this. It was pretty bad. It had this character that was supposed to be a gender creature, but a demon at the same time, and it was. Help me out. I hated it. I thought it was ridiculous.
Technically, I'm going to butcher this name. If I remember correctly, it was the first time Father Merrin had a confrontation with Pazuzu, I believe is what the demon's name was, that possessed Regan in technically The Exorcist. So this would this would have been his. Really, how it works is Dominion being the first film, The Beginning being the second, then The Exorcist. Unfortunately, The Exorcist 2, and then The Exorcist 3. So that's where he had his first confrontation, and then that's where it carries over to the 2004 movie of The Beginning.
Okay,
it's all about a young Father Merrin, who, as we know, Father Merrin dies in The Exorcist movie, and technically, what some people call part 1, but it's really part 3.
So they're kind of following the Star Wars legacy right there. They're just,
kind of, yeah.
Maybe J.J. Abrams will come back and fix this. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, don't touch my Exorcist, man. Leave that one alone.
How about a little bit of movie trivia?
The book, The Exorcist, that was written, was actually inspired by the 1949 exorcism case of Roland Doe. It deals with the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl and her mother's desperate attempts to win back her child through an exorcism conducted by 2 priests. That actually took place in Mount Airy, Maryland, not in Georgetown, as the movie says, but it was Mount Airy, Maryland. Some other interesting tidbits, the scene where Regan projectile vomits on Father Karras only required 1 take. The vomit was intended to hit him in the chest. Instead, the plastic tubing that sprayed the vomit accidentally misfired, hitting him in the face. I can't even imagine. The look of shock and disgust while wiping away the vomit is genuine. Actor Jason Miller, who plays Father Karras, admitted in an interview that he was very angered by this mistake. Angered's not the word I would use.
Oh, you could see that he was livid.
Yeah.
And I think they did that on purpose. That couldn't have been an accident.
Who knows?
Fire now.
Yeah.
Get him now. He's looking down.
His mouth's open.
My eye! Oh, jeez.
Yeah, from what I understand, there were several parts in that movie that they didn't inform some of the actors about, just to get that random, that natural surprise or disgust, or just really feeding off that natural instinct of what said surprise might invoke.
For me, the most haunting, and I guess it has to do with our mutual music background and recording background. By the way, everybody, Mike and I have been in a lot of bands together too, and played music together for a very long time. Both guitarists, both singers. Well, I don't sing that much anymore. Do you still sing?
No, not so much.
Okay, so we're both guitarists, and. And you played keys for a little while. You know how to play piano pretty well.
Yeah, little keys. Not very well, but a little bit. Bass guitar.
No, not the car keys. You put those back down.
No.
The scene where they're recording the voice and just listening to that, all those different tracks, and I'm surprised they didn't make a bigger deal about how many voices were coming out all at once. Still, the scary part for me was hearing all those voices, which also prompted me to record a lot of sentences purposely to be played backwards to make sentences, which we used in a lot of haunted houses.
Right.
There was my buddy Nick, you and I sat, I think, and recorded some tracks. Didn't you record with me trying to say our names backwards and crap like that so it would play forwards when we... And I love that scene. I just love that. And the guy goes... He said, I don't know what kind of language that is. And the other gentleman says, that's not language. That's English. Human language. Backwards. And then they turn the tape the other way. And you hear him going, Marin!
Right.
And screaming all that. Oh, gosh, it gives my... Even today, I was watching the movie today, and I got a little spiny on that. So that was neat.
That's one of the great things, that they just did. By the standards or today's standards, technically, The Exorcist would be a low-budget film by today's standards. And
definitely,
it's the highest grossing horror movie out there.
Oh yeah, and then you got the Blu-ray release too,
right?
And that must have pumped it up.
Well, if I remember correctly, they did a 20th anniversary re-release in the theaters. If I remember right around Halloween time a couple years ago,
Right.
And I actually never got a chance to see it in the theater, so I actually went to it and saw it. And let me tell you, man, with that Dolby surround sound, it just, yeah, it was an awesome experience.
I actually went to that with my stepbrother Andrew, and that was another reaction where he was like, yeah, it was okay. I came out of there going, did that scare you to death? You know, and he's like, yeah, it's all right. I'm like, but there's about a 15-year gap between our ages.
Right.
That, so
yeah. One more interesting tidbit about the film is that it earned 10 Academy Award nominations, winning 2 of them, Best Sound Mixing and Best Adapted Screenplay. And it lost Best Picture to the movie The Sting. It became one of the highest grossing films of all time, grossing over $441 million worldwide. It's also the first horror film to be nominated for Best Picture. That's some really cool stuff, man.
You can't beat that. You cannot beat that in a horror film, especially in 1971.
Yeah, for sure.
Or excuse me, 1973. Year 1971.
Yeah, 73. And
so that means by 75, Blatty had himself a nice new mansion, a brand new bed, because the first one got ruined.
He even put some new paint on the walls, put a new window
Got a window replaced. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, so.
Got an escalator so he doesn't have to climb them steps. Now, those steps are in our neighborhood.
Yes.
Have you climbed those steps?
Yeah, I have several times. Gone there late at night. On, you know,
oh man, I couldn't.
When
do that.
There's no,
I have not been there at night.
When there's no, no moonlight, no stars or anything like that, and just I've sat there, man, just like kind of in the middle and just listened because you know the superstitions, you heard them. You know, oh, you might hear something. Oh, you might see something. Nothing ever happened, but I can tell you, it'll give you some tingles, man. It really will.
Yeah. I researched a little bit about the steps and why they chose those particular steps for the movie. And what I found out was William Peter Blatty graduated from Georgetown University in 1950. Back then, they were known as the Hitchcock Steps, named for Alfred Hitchcock. They always invoked something spooky and suspenseful, he always said. So the name of the street that the house in the movie is located on is 3600 Prospect Avenue in Georgetown. And it was actually owned by Senator Lloyd Benson. Senator Benson said, well, do you have a check for $1 million that you can give me right now and you can film in my house for the movie? The interior scenes of the house for the movie was actually filmed on a soundstage, I think in California. Now, when I went up and down those Exorcist steps, there was a whole bunch of parables and script from the movie on the steps and written in marker, blood, anything they could write with, crayon, I'm guessing, and then on the wall in chalk and some spray painted along the walls there. And did you ever see it when it was in that shape?
Yeah, they actually had a body outline at the bottom of the steps. I guess somebody just laid there, probably one of the college kids or something, and someone spray painted an outline of a body. But
now that's funny.
Yeah, it's kind of, you got to have a good sense of humor about it. But I have seen a recent picture here with actually in the last month. One of my friends that lives in Maryland was down in the Georgetown area and posted on Facebook. Yeah. Had anybody seen this picture, or does anybody know where this is? And all of it has been cleaned up. So there's no more of the graffiti on it, or anything like that. Can't say about the brick, but actually on the steps itself, it looked clean in the photo.
Somebody owns it, so somebody wants it cleaned up, obviously.
Well, it's the city. It's maintained by the city. Preppyville now.
Well, that area, definitely. Yeah. I don't miss it.
No,
I really don't.
No, neither do I. Being down where I'm at is it's a blessing.
And being up where I am. See, Mike and I both grew up you were in Arlington as well, right?
Yes, sir.
So we were both in Arlington, Virginia, and in our this is the hilarious part to me still. I tell this story to Shelley and we laugh. I called you to tell you that I was moving to Connecticut.
As you were telling me you were moving to Connecticut, I was telling you I was moving to Florida the day after.
That's right. And I think that's hilarious because you had just been, and I hadn't talked to you in, God, almost a year or something.
It had been about a year since we'd spoken. It'd probably been 15 years or 12 years that we'd spoke prior to that because we had just lost contact. So
yeah. And then here we are. Two different. That was pretty funny, though. It's like, Mike, I miss you. I just want to let you know I'm moving up to, so if you want to get together. Oh, that's what it was. Do you want to get together and do something before I move? And you said, well, I would, but I'm down here in Florida. Getting ready to move down to Florida. I can't make it. Did you know that Jamie Lee Curtis auditioned for the role of Regan McNeil, but her mother, Janet Leigh, refused her to be able to play that role?
But yet she let her audition for Halloween.
That's right.
What can you say?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
What can you say?
Janet Leigh, what was her story?
She was the lady in the shower in the movie Psycho, the blonde.
Oh, she didn't want her daughter ending up being a hack queen.
I don't know, but Jamie Lee Curtis ended up. Halloween's what launched Jamie Lee Curtis's career. Was Halloween 1. I think that was her. She was 17 years old. That was her first acting gig. And, and she's reprised that role over 20 years, as Laurie Strong, I believe. And she's went on to do other movies and stuff like that. But, maybe it wouldn't have happened for her that way if she took the part of Regan McNeil. Who knows?
True.
It's time to go. Time for final comments.
I feel this movie is what other horror movies live up to, and as well as Exorcist 3. Exorcist 3 was another pinnacle, but again, I'll save that for another episode. But what do you think? Do you think that this movie is something that other movies try to use as a guideline for horror films?
Yeah, I do. Two of the movies that I really see another big influence of The Exorcist is The Conjuring and Annabelle. Just, kind of based off of true life stories or actual facts as they state in the movies. But I see a lot of The Exorcist in that. So I think, there's a lot of influence, whoever the director was for that film.
James Wan, one of my favorite next to Sam Raimi, and I guess Steven Spielberg is going to be one. Ridley Scott is another, of course, for his work. But I really think James Wan has a heck of a future, and he's still young, so he's going to provide us with good ones. But he knows how to. You're absolutely right. He knows how to follow those rules where. You could tell he's a Sam Raimi fan and he's a William Peter Blatty fan because of the fact that he's following some of those same techniques, even with audio.
Right.
It's funny you say that because one of the big things, like you said, The Exorcist won for best sound.
Yes.
As well. Now, if you listen to it, there's this overly mono track for sound effects, and I mean overly mono, just dead center in your face mono, and having to do with things moving, having to do with the voices, door slammings. It's not something that opens up into stereo, and that's what is crisp in The Conjuring and crisp in Annabelle. If you listen to that, there's stereo, of course. There's 7.1, whatever. Nothing beats a good mono scream, a good mono door, a good mono over the head, thump, clamor, whatever.
But yeah, I think those are some of the most recent movies that really... The Exorcist set the bar high. Let's face it, and I don't think, Sam Raimi William Peter Blatty. I don't think he realized what he had when he did this movie, when they filmed it from 1971 and it was released in 1973. The legacy that he created with just that one movie, that how influential. What are we? 30 years later,
Yeah.
And here we are, and you and I are discussing it because it's still very relevant to us as horror movie fans.
And it's the king of horror movies, and that's exactly why it's number one. This is not something you can talk about at episode 10 or 15 or something. You have to talk about that right away.
You've got to start. You've got to start with the groundwork, and this movie laid the groundwork for even some of the slasher films, you know. You know, even they hinted at it in the Halloween with Michael Myers, you know, possibly being possessed and was pure evil, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of crossover from The Exorcist and just a lot of these movies.
And that all leads right back to the Big E.
That's right. That's right.
Now, the last question I have for you will be, do you think, or like, will or should there be another sequel to this film, or even a remake? And if so, who do you think should do it?
I don't think they should remake this film, because I think if they do, they're going to try to have to rewrite it in some form to make it their own, or someone's going to,
right?
You know, someone's going to come out and say, well, this is my point of view, and it's really going to take away from the original. I'd hate to see it. I mean, one of my second favorite movies, the original Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against the Rob Zombie, but it was a completely different version of Halloween when he did it, and it kind of took away from it, in my opinion. But I'm a classics guy. It's like all the people rewriting Dracula's.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bela Lugosi's the best.
Yeah, you can't. I agree with that. You can't touch that.
Yeah.
At all.
So no, I don't think they. I think they should just leave it where it is.
Well, the only thing I would allow is, now William Peter Blatty is 87 now, I think. So he still has a chance if he wants to do part 4. Being this close to death, he probably doesn't want to mess around with demonic stuff.
Yeah.
But
I don't even know if he has a part 4 written, or a part 3 or whatever written for the in book form.
He could, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't see any references to it when I did any research.
Yeah, and I'm lazy. I just wrote the summary just to watch you giggle. So that's all I did. Yeah, I would take another one only if it was written or produced or something by Peter Blatty, even William Friedkin. I would allow that. Otherwise, yeah, no reason to ever touch that. It would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's a classic, and a true classic. I think that the people that are directing and writing movies such as The Conjuring, Annabelle, that's their homage to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there you go.
You know.
Definitely.
So saying, you're the big dog, we hope we can at least even stand in your shadow.
I hope you like our puppies.
Yeah. You know, so, and I hope it stays that way. I really do.
Yeah. So, Mike, you did a great job today, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Congratulations on your very first podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this, man. It was awesome.
Oh, no, thank you for joining me. I couldn't think of anybody else. You did the perfect choice for the horror films because, man, we love them. What would be your next choice for a horror film to discuss?
Babadook. I think that would be a great one.
Babadook. All right, we're going to do it. Babadook is next, definitely.
Yeah, sounds good.
And now I'm going to sell my buddy Mike. For those who would like to purchase my friend Mike, you can find him on Facebook at Mike Groshon. That's Groshon at Facebook. And you can also find him on Google Plus, because you are on Google Plus as well. Hence us doing this wonderful hangout. So please help yourselves to my buddy Mike, as I have for the past 44 years.
And now, tonight's horrifying music.
You were so wrong.
So, we're going to end the show tonight with The Exorcist Tubular Bells Meets Metal by the greatest metal guitarist on the planet, Mr. E-Rock, which is Eric Calderon.
You can find E-Rock/Eric Calderon on his Facebook by typing Eric Calderon into the search. On Twitter, twitter.com/331ERock, or on his website, www.shredguitareric.com. He's on iTunes, CD Baby. You can even buy t-shirts if you check him out on YouTube. That youtube.com/331ERock. Rock on, Eric.
Enjoy this. It's originally composed by Mike Oldfeld. He's the one who wrote Tubular Bells, which is the theme to The Exorcist. And are you ready to rock to that, Mike?
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Thank you so much again. I can't thank you enough for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You have a good night.
You too, man. Look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, me too. When you go to bed tonight, just say your prayers for me, will you?
Absolutely.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
All of Zerbinator's music and podcasts are under the Creative Commons license, which allows retelling and rebroadcasting as long as the author is notified and credited. For more great escape pods, please visit www.zerbinator.wordpress.com. If you would like to contact Zerbinatorland, you can send an email to instrumentally@gmail.com or give us a call at 571-408-ZERB or 9372.
I said it backwards. It's been gross, or it has grossen.
Had grossen, huh?
Sugar.
That's because your name is Groshon, and that's why.
All right, I'm going to start that over.